Something a little bit different today, folks. A bit of a forgotten tactic, but one that is still very effective on commercials, especially when fish start to feed in the warmer months. And it's fishing an open-ended feeder, lots and lots of particles, and building a swim. Now, nowadays, method feeders, hybrid feeders really take over. But if you do something a little bit different, and something about this tactic is you can be very, very aggressive. So you can actually win a lot of fish, get a lot of fish in your peg. We're at the Glebe. This place is famous for this method, and I'm going to run you through it today. So the whole idea of this method is to get a lot of fish in your peg, and to do that you need to feed quite a bit of bait. And what I mean by that is particles and ground bait in an open-ended feeder. Now I'm going to attack the lake by fishing across to the far bank, and there's loads of different situations where you've got a feature to fish to. Today it's the far bank of the lake, but on a lot of commercials you have island pegs, you have banks to fish against on end pegs and corners. So there's a lot of situations you could actually use this method, but wherever you can get into some shallow water and a feature, it's very effective. So it's about 30 metres across to the far bank today, and I've got a mix of particles that I'm going to put in the feeder: dead maggots, casters, hemp, 2mm and 4mm activated and cell pellets in there, and I've got some expander ground bait. Very important to get the right mix for this so it comes out the feeder straight away. But to kick off, I'm just going to have a few regular casts to get a little bit of bait in there to start with. And one thing I'd say about this method compared to a lot of method or hybrid or even open-ended feeder fishing that you might do is you've got to be active, you've got to be busy. So I'll be looking to cast to start with here to try and draw some fish in every minute, 90 seconds at least, to get the fish going. I've clipped up, so I'm landing it as close to that far bank as I possibly can. And the reason for using that fluffy 100% pure ground expander based ground bait is I can pack the particles into it, into a feeder, give it a nip, but when it's mixed on the dry side, literally that feeder now will have hit the water, hit the bottom in shallow water, and it'll be empty already. So I'm ready for a super quick bite, and I'm releasing a lot of bait into the peg straight away. I just had a little indication immediately there. Could have been a small fish. I'm literally, these first few casts, I'm only going to give them a minute or so, and I'm going to get busy and spend this first 10-15 minutes getting some bait in, making some noise and building the swim. No bite first chuck. Odd little indication though, but it's not about catching straight away on this. It's all about building it up and getting that regular bait going in, particles going in. Remember, you're fishing for, you know, big weights of fish, so don't be scared to feed plenty of bait, work hard and get it going. Getting sort of a small dollop of particles, just giving them a little rub through the mix so all that expander ground bait gets between them, and then just very lightly giving it sort of a one-nipped squeeze, just enough to get it out there. I can imagine it just bursting out the feeder as soon as it's sort of landing and getting to the bottom. I think that's important. I think when you're fishing like this, I think the fish like the noise of that feeder going in. They like that big puff of bait and plume of bait coming out straight away. Such an aggressive way of fishing, but I think that's why it's so effective in the warmer months. It's a little bit cool today, to be honest, so it might be a bit of a slower start for us, but I'm sure once we get rocking and rolling we'll catch a few. Again, that's been in there for probably, spooked one then, probably been in there for 60-70 seconds, but I'm going to come back in and get going again. I'm sure it'll be the 4th, 5th cast we might start to see some positive signs. Hook bait wise, I've got 4 dead maggots on. I've got a mix of reds and whites. I've got a size 14 excess spade on there, which is a big wide gape strong hook, and then I've got a 22-inch hook length of 020 Supernatural, so it's nice and strong. The rules at the Glebe are you've got to use a 22-inch hook length below your feeder, That actually makes this a really interesting method to fish, and I sometimes think that slow fall, they'll hear the feeder going, and as them few maggots are just fluttering down, that's often when you'll get a bite once you've got the fish in the swim and feeding. Strong gear on that terminal end, definitely a must on this. Odd little indication, last two chucks, as if there's an odd fish there. They could be little silvers to start with. Generally, once the carp get a taste of like the maggots, casters, micro pellets in there, you start to catch a few. There we go, got that third cast. That's just what we're sort of saying, takes a little bit of getting them there, but great bites on it, literally. There's just something more aggressive about fishing this method than a method or a hybrid for me. I really like it. It's a little bit more old school, and I think there's definitely a time and a place for it on commercials nowadays. It's so much more positive than just plopping a method or a hybrid, and I like the fact that you can be aggressive fishing across to a feature with baits like pellets and maggots and casters, whereas obviously you can't really get a bed of them down when you're fishing with a hybrid. It's all pellet based, and I think if you're the only angler doing it, feeding an amount of maggots and casters and emp and micro pellets over there, casting regular, I think you can really dominate the area. It's something that works fantastically well here at the Glebe. Used to work at places like Whiteacres a lot as well before pellets were allowed. Lovely fish here, look at them. Nice mirror. Third cast in now. I think we're in for a good day. He's nailed. There he is, not the biggest, but we're off the mark. Got some bait going in. And they're on it already. Look at him. That little character, aren't you? Very important when you're fishing this, make sure that you don't squeeze your bait in too hard. When you're casting regular, it's easy to get a little bit lazy, but you need to concentrate all the time to just make sure you control the press of the feeder. Obviously it needs to be squeezed enough to get it there, but as little as possible so it literally bursts out. And the beauty of them exchange feeders is they're not only front loaded, so they fly ridiculously well, especially when you're casting tight to features like this, but they empty very, very quickly too. I think I had a bite then. Could have been a liner that moved the feeder, but you literally, that was, I'm sure it were a bite because a lot of my maggots have gone. But once you get going on this method, often bites will come within seconds of it landing. With that long up length, I'm sure they see the maggots falling, come to that cloud and puff a bait that's coming out of the feeder straight in on it, and you get a very quick bite. Ooh. Indication then, I think it's a small fish this time. Look at that, a gudgeon. Great method for gudgeon. How's that at 5 maggots? And I had to see a bite off that out there. Crazy. The thing that allows you to be positive with this method is when you're feeding maggots, casters, all them sort of baits, you know that other fish are eating them as well, so you can just keep going, keep casting. Whereas if you were only putting 8mm pellets and that kind of thing in, you know it's mainly carp that are going to be eating them. Probably going to hit a goose now on my way out, but move out the way, goose. Oh, you weren't that bothered, were you? So the thing with maggots and casters is all the little fish, skimmers, roach, will be eating them as well. You just get so much competition in your peg, and you can build it up as the day goes on. There we go. Another one. A big drop back bite, that one, and when that happens, sometimes pays to sort of pick up and almost strike into it or wind back into it. When you fish into an island, sometimes the fish shoot towards you, and you've got to get rid of that slack line. That hurt me finger, that did, I'm not going to lie. Got an 11-foot rod, which is perfect for casting over there, just a normal Aventus. Actually put a 2-ounce distance tip in it. It fit perfect, and I just love this rod with that tip. It works beautiful. Already you can see it's starting to kick off and build. I clearly like the noise of the feeder and a lot of bait going in regular. £8 mainline. You definitely want something durable, because not only are you going to be playing a lot of big fish and fighting them, and it's going to take a lot of grief, but you're going to be busy casting all the time, so your mainline needs to be as durable as possible. It needs to be sort of thin enough to cast easily, which £8 Pulse Pro, I think it's about 0.23, but it's ridiculously strong and hard wearing as well. Another good fish, bit bigger this one I think, folks. That's what we want. Mirror, similar to last, bit bigger. Now, one of the most tricky things when you chuck into a feature is clipping up and casting tight to it all the time. Now, the tighter the better, I'm not going to lie. The closer you can get to that far bank island, the better, because there's less chance of foul looking fish, because you're in the shallowest water, and obviously your hook bait's as far away as possible from where they can get to, so it's kind of the last thing they come to. But the art of doing it with a feeder is to be able to cast tight to the far bank, but then leave the feeder in position. If you cast tight and sort of hit your clip right in front of you, when you then move your rod to put it on your rest, you can drag the feeder away. So when I actually cast, I try and hit my clip quite far back here. I'll cast, lift the rod back and sort of cushion the feeder in. So when the feeder lands, I've still got a little bit of slack line to put the rod on the rest. It's something that takes a little bit of practice, but I'm sort of bringing the rod back, hitting the clip, but now the feeder's in position against the island, but I can actually get my rod onto the rest, and I've even put a turn of line onto the reel, so if I do need to back wind a little bit I can, and I know that feeder's in position, it's not moved, and my rod's nicely set. Now if you're hitting the clip right in front of you and the rod's straight, and then you've got to drag it to put it on the rest, you run the risk of dragging that feeder down the slope, spreading your bait out everywhere, foul looking fish. If you can get into the habit of sort of hitting your clip a little bit further back to give yourself a bit of line to play with, you'll find you can fish to features a lot more effectively on any feeder, not just this, but In particular this one. There we go, another one straight away, look at that. They're right on it now. Big bunch of dead maggots. Great hook bait. Can't beat that feeling, can you? You know when it wellies round. Whoa. Oh, you're going on a Madden. He went crazy then, didn't he? Definitely warming up. I'm sure you can see now you need that durable gear. Not just the demands of playing the fish, but just the busyness and aggressiveness of the method. Take some proper hammer. Last thing you want to be doing sort of 2 hours into this game, cracking off because your main line's not durable enough, or snapping off on uplands because you're fishing too light. What we got? Common this time. Glebe common. There he is. Cracker. Shows how much that they want to eat them natural baits when you're catching them and they're taking it down, and you've got to use a disgorger there, look. Big bunch of maggots, 4 or 5. Absolutely nailed. Look at him. Soon build a weight catching him as quick as that. That had literally been in for well under a minute. Noise of it going in, loads of bait coming out, getting them fish competing and starting to line them up now. When you're actually mixing your ground bait for this kind of thing, obviously expand the ground bait takes on a lot of water, so you're going to have to wet it a couple of times. What I'd say is always do it a little bit more on the dry side. Something I never say, I love a nice damp ground bait, but just mixing it on that dry side and using it in conjunction with that kind of feeder means it really releases quick. I can't stress enough how important that is. I've got a goose that's wanting to sit right where I'm casting all the time, so I've just had to go a little bit left at that time. Just moved him though, scared him off a little bit. Look at that, literally seconds. It just shows how important that noise is. There's absolutely no way that that hook bait was on the bottom then. You've heard that feeder go in, came into the splash, the noise, the ground bait, puffing out of it, and one on in seconds. And I'm sure even on, if you've got a method or a hybrid on there, never in a million years would you have got a bite as quick as that. And that's the beauty of this compared to them methods. And it's a blooming exciting way of fishing. The bites are fantastic. That one were a big jab forward and then everything just dropped slack. I think it's quite an important thing to learn your bites, you know. You will be getting a big mirror, look at him, biggest one yet. You'll be getting a lot of indications on this kind of method. And the ones that look at it, the ones that I tend to strike at are either a real obvious head shake, fish on, pulling the rod tip round, or another very obvious big jab and then everything drops slack where the fish has come back towards you, like that one did then. Probably £8. Cracking fish. If you ever get the chance to come to the Glebe, folks, honestly, it's one of the UK's finest fisheries. The fish are beautiful. It's absolutely immaculate. Well, as you can see, they fight even in the net, but look at them. Beauties. There's not many places like it, honestly. Look at him. Two different kinds of feeder that I would use for this kind of fishing. You might be surprised about one. The first though is just a normal bottom loaded exchange cage feeder. Release bait very, very quickly, make a lovely noise when they go in the water, and because the weight forward bottom end weighted design, fly like a bullet. So you can be nice and accurate and cast them in the same spot every time. I'm not the best caster, but even I can get it somewhere near with ease. However, these feeders are all about releasing bait quick, which is great for getting fish there in the first place, building a swim, really attacking it. But sometimes you'll have little spells during days when you're doing this where the fish are a bit scatty. You might foul hook a couple, or you'll get a lot of indications on your tip and not be able to hook one. And that's the point when I change to a caged winder feeder. And the difference with this feeder is, unlike the open ender, it actually keeps the bait in for a lot longer. So fish come in, they hear it, they see it, they smell it, they'll come in, but because the bait's sort of held in the feeder a little bit longer, they don't have as many options, so they're a lot more likely to pick up your hook bait quickly. And changing between the two, depending what's happening in your peg, is very important. Quick release, getting them there, attacking it, it's the normal open-ended exchange for me. But I'm having a few problems with foul hookers and I just want to keep that bait in there, let them come and pick me up bait out, change to a cage window. Can be a great little trick, that can, especially a bit later on in the day. Just had a right weird little spell. I can actually see some fish up against the bank opposite, and I'm getting a lot of indications but not catching, so I've just slipped my window on, see if I can get a little bit quicker bite. It just holds that bait in a little bit better and almost forces them to pick out your hook bait. It's a 30 gram medium, very, very easy to cast they are. I wonder if we'll get a quick bite or nail one. Just changing it to that, just keeping everything a little bit tighter and holding it in. I almost envisage them feeders empty when you actually hook a fish. So you're almost teeing it up for the next cast, you know. Big drop back. Straight away. 45 seconds, 50 seconds. Just tightens everything up, that little cage window. Keeps your bait in and closed. Just seems to get you, nick you odd fish when you feel like they're there but you can't catch them. I could see an odd one now, that feeder landed, I could see a few bolt away, and they're definitely there, but over time the aggressiveness of the method means there's bait spread out everywhere, and if you just want to tighten everything up, just have a little spell using a window instead of the open ender, and you can just keep nicking some without sort of blowing the peg to bits with bait. So quick the bites you actually get on this. Some of them as it lands, that I mean all within a minute 90 seconds today. Big mirror, that one, beauty. Great fishing, really great fishing. Oh. 30 gram cage window. I tell you what they do, cast like an absolute bullet as well. So if you are struggling with your casting or on a really windy day, or you've got a bigger chuck, definitely don't be scared to have a little play with them feeders as well. They'll really help you out. He was not ever coming off. Absolutely nailed. You literally can't get a rig any simpler than the one that I'm using today. It's a old rig that I think Andy Finley or someone like that sort of designed in the first place. Really strong mainline, got 8 pound pulse pro, and I've literally tied a snap link swivel to that. It's a size 11 snap link with really strong one, and all I do with that snap link is I put my feeder in there, and then I also put my hook length in after and then close it up. So obviously it acts as a bolt rig. When a fish picks up your hook bait, it bolts against the weight of that feeder, hence why the bites are so aggressive. The fish are hooked. It never ever tangles. And here at the Glebe, you've got to use a 20-inch hook length. I've got a 20, just over 22 inches on there, hanging below that feeder, and that's 020 Supernatural, very strong line, and either a size 12 or 14 XS Spade Super one, PTFE version. Very strong hook pattern, but also the shape of it, the wide gate, means I can put 3, 4, 5, 10 maggots in there if I want. But I've still got loads of hook points showing, so when a fish sucks it in, it gets them and they can't get away from it. So big strong hook, wide gate important, very strong gear, and the rig itself self hooking but incredibly simple. Little runner fish on that window as expected, but straight away thinking, gone quiet, I need to get that cage back on and be more aggressive. And they're the kind of moves you can make with this style of fishing. A lot of people would just sit there with the same feeder on all day. I've had my little window, great little pun there, on the cage window feeder, caught a few, but not as many there. I'm not getting indications, so I'm going to bring them back in and get aggressive again with that cage, packed nice and soft. But hopefully it's just given me sort of 15-20 minutes of letting them settle down. You know, it's not had bait ploughing in and coming out on the surface everywhere. Nick them couple on the window, but now it's time to get them back in. So back out there with the exchange. Makes a totally different noise as well, a lot louder bang when it goes in, which I think is good for bringing them to you. Well, hopefully the action you've seen today, gang, has given you a little bit of inspiration to get out and give an open-ended, attacking, aggressive, I don't really know what it's called, but a real positive cage feeder and longer hook length style method a try on commercials. Whether you're in a match and you really want to dominate your area, boss it and bring a load of fish in, or something a little bit different for an exciting day's pleasure fishing like we've had today, there's absolutely no doubt it's a phenomenal method and really enjoyable to fish as well. The right kit, the right particle baits, and then that right ground bait mixer explodes out your feeder, all key things, combined with some strong gear and some decent biceps and triceps, because my arms are aching a little bit now. But you're in for a great day's fishing for sure. Works all the way through, right from spring into autumn, but especially during them summer months when fish want bait, they're hunting it out. This is a good one, I think. Common, I reckon, this one. You can come round here, mister. Look at him. What a lovely one to end on. You don't need loads of kit, you don't need complicated kit, but plenty of bait. Oh, clumsy finish from that there. Plenty of bait. Little bit of accuracy with casting. Find yourself a nice feature to fish to, like a bar bank or an island. and you can have a great day's sport. Oh, come here, let's get you up for... Everyone wants to have a look at you. Look at him, he's a cracker to finish with, isn't he? Lovely golden Glebe common. Hope you enjoyed it, gang. I'll see you next time.